So he says, Vashenis, and according to the second reason, that you're actually coming back in order to be able to make up for mitzvahs that you did not perform during your lifetime, but you have to at some point in your history of existence. Hu rachok melechet. He's not going to do averes necessarily because he's not coming back to rectify averes. He had a pretty clean life previously, and now he's coming back to make up for the lost mitzvahs he didn't do. So therefore, that person will be more challenged in terms of getting up and doing things as opposed to avoiding the wrong thing. And he says, the third one, the third reason for coming back to help other people, for sure he's not going to come back and be vulnerable and in a position of doing chetayim, because he's here not for himself, but for other people instead. That's what he says, right? There are other reasons why that a person can reincarnate and come back even several times. These are the reasons. Sometimes he's going to come back because he has not yet met a zivug, he hasn't met his soulmate, and he has to come back to do that, right? And he says, because he wasn't zecher, he did not merit the first time he was here to do that, and at some point then he has to do that, right? And there's other times, shekavar lekach bas zugo. Other times, he in fact has met his wife before. He has been married to his zivuk in the past. Ella shechanta be'eze aver. He's done an aver in the past. He's done something he should have done wrong. V'utzrach l'zgagel l'takenusa, and he has to come back to rectify his avera. Right, but she doesn't have to because she didn't do this in Avera. He did the Avera. He has to rectify himself. Why should she come back on his behalf? Right? So it says, Va'az enu barak yechidi, and then he comes back by himself because it's his Avera, it's his thing. He has to fix up. Kamash yasav asabim Mishpatim, as we said before, is talking about Rav Nuna. He says there on the pasuk from this week's parsha, im begapo yavo. If he came in by himself, meaning that it's talking about an indentured slave, it's talking about somebody, a Jewish slave, who came in as a single individual, but on the sod level, it's talking about a neshama coming back into this world as a Gilgul by himself, meaning because his wife, why should she be schlepped along in the process to come back to, because he made a mistake in his previous lifetime. V'chulu, etc. So here's an example of a pasuk that seems so technical and dry, and talking about slaves of all things in this day and age, but really on a soul level, remarkably, it's talking about Gilgulim, which is relevant to everybody at all points in history. Ufamim hu sheyesh lo zchuyot, but there's times, even in such a case like that, where he's coming back to rectify himself, and his wife does not have to come back to rectify herself, but he has a schus, he has schuyot, he has merits. There's something he did in his previous lifetime. Maybe he was extra good to his wife, in spite of the fact he was making mistakes, but they had a very close relationship. Whatever the reason, he has some kind of schuyot, some kind of merit in his favor. L'chein, afal pishi enu tzrich l'skagel, even though she herself does not need to come back to rectify herself, nevertheless, machzir ishto l'skagel imo, they will send her back with him. Obviously, it's not going to be against her in any way. It's more like a free ride, so to speak, right? Besar v'yatza ishta imo. In the Sota, again, the pasuk from this week's parsha, that his wife will go out with him. If he comes in with his wife will go out with him in the end. But here it's talking not just about the man who came into his situation of slavery. For example, let's say he stole and he couldn't pay back the money, so he has to become an Eved Ivri for 6 years to pay back what he has to pay back in the end, right? So if he's married when that was the case, so his wife moves into the house of the master with her husband, right? And if he came in with his wife, he leaves with his wife in the end. So it's talking on that level, pshat level, but on the sod level, it's talking about a man who happened to come back in another incarnation with his wife because she came back to help him out because he had a certain schus. Ufamim hu shelo zacha berishon likach basivugo. Maybe, and here's another situation where he did not merit to meet his wife the first time. Amnam nizdemenelo isha lefi ma'asav, and he's not going to meet his zivug per se in his next lifetime, but rather they set aside a woman, a wife for him in a lifetime that, based upon his actions, based upon where he's holding as an individual. So here this answers one of the age-old questions, if it's possible not to meet one's zivug in the course of one's lifetime. I mean, look, there's divorce and, and all these things that indicate it anyhow. But here it's saying anyhow that a person comes back in this world and he won't necessarily have the merit to meet his zivug, and they basically get married. So they give him a woman, they give him a wife, based upon where he's holding. B'chol neshamas and anashim sheba'olam she'ena b'zivug mamash, right? Ukasher chatim esagel megalgel imolisha azos, right? So let's say, for example, he has not met his wife, his zivug, at any point in time, and he has to come back at another lifetime. So that woman who's not his zivug, she also can come back with him in the next Gilgul, just like it would have been had it been his zivug in the first place. Even though she herself does not need to reincarnate, still she'll come back with her husband that she got married to. And even that's the chiddush. That's the point over here. Because normally the reason why she should come back, even though she doesn't have to come back, he has to come back to rectify himself. But she's coming back. Why? Because she's his zivug, and he has a specific merit to bring her back in the next lifetime. And you see, there's times, for example, where the husband and wife seem not so matched, meaning that he's working on himself. He's got what to rectify, and she seems to be quite a tzaddik, is quite righteous because she's not back here to Megalgal, to fix things up for herself. But the chiddush over here is, in this case, where the man, he married somebody who was not his zivug, nevertheless, she may come back in the next Gilgul, even though she doesn't have to come back to rectify herself, just as if she was his bas zivug in the end.